this is All Day Day 1 on the PS4, and I'm going to be giving you another Assassin's Creed Odyssey build video. And with this build video I'm going to be giving you is going to be another Pyromancer build, which is going to be the original Agamemnon set. And if you guys don't know, the Agamemnon set is a full-on fire build, and in my opinion, the best, one of the best legendary sets in the game for sure. Definitely one of the top contenders. So we're going to go ahead and go right into it. So with the weapons I'm using is, I'm going to be using Prometheus's Sika, and I'm also going to be using Hammer of Hephaestus, and then I'm using an epic bow. So for the sword, you get warrior damage, 28% fire damage, and 15% fire damage and buildup. And then the hammer, you get warrior damage, 28% fire damage, and 25% elemental damage, but you do lose 25% physical damage. And then on my epic bow, I have warrior damage, 20% fire damage, and 7% crit chance. On the engraves, you want to throw on the 30% elemental damage, but you do lose 30% elemental resistance. And then on the Hammer of Hephaestus, you want to put 30% elemental damage, but you also do lose 30% elemental buildup. And then the bow, you want to have that 30% armor penetration, because that armor penetration is going to help you a lot. Now, the reason why you want to go with that elemental damage on both of these, because they stack. They're not the same engrave. They're completely different engraves with the same benefits. They both do give you elemental damage increase. This one makes you more weaker to all elemental effects, such as fire, well, only fire and poison. But, you know, most of the time you're not going to get hit anyways by those, because you're just going to keep moving around. And with this build, you can pretty much light an enemy on fire with a couple hits and just avoid them. You don't even have to encounter them anymore. Just hide behind a wall, and it's a long timer too. It's a long fire duration. So as long as that is going off, that fire damage, you don't have to worry about getting hit. And with the elemental buildup being lost down to 30%, you don't need to worry, because you're gonna focus on putting a lot of elemental buildup anyways with your mastery points, as well as I believe on some of your gear is gonna have elemental buildup as well. And then with that 25% less physical damage, don't worry about that, because this is a fire damage over time build. Plus your weapons, as long as they have the fire element active, they're gonna still do a normal amount of damage. They're not gonna be doing an extremely high amount of damage like you would if you had a high crit chance crit damage build, which this doesn't have a high crit chance crit damage build, but it's still gonna have a high amount of fire damage. And then for, like I said, with the bow, you want to have that fire damage crit chance and then 30% armor penetration. Now for the legendary gear itself, so the Agamemnon set, it was given a huge buff from being 50% burn rate to 100%. 50% used to be, well, it still is on the epic gear and any other gear. It is really good because it's 2 ticks every 2 seconds. Now with the 100% burning rate, it's 4 ticks every 2 seconds. So it basically looks like it's ticking every second. So you're getting 1, 2, 3, 4 every single time, which is really nice. And I didn't mean to make that sound like a whole countdown thing, whatever. But it's really, this burn rate is really good for a fire build. And honestly, this is probably one of the best fire builds you can go with. Obviously, if you have an epic set with all the right stats on it, it's going to be better, but I think Agamemnon is right up there with it. So with the helmet, you get warrior damage, 28% fire damage, and then the arms, you get warrior damage elemental buildup, warrior damage in 7 seconds burning duration on the torso, and then on the waist, warrior damage 7 seconds burning duration, and then on the legs you get warrior damage and 20% fire damage. Now with all the engraves I ended up putting on, I have 35% crit damage. If you can, put on that 15% or 14% crit chance on full health. And then on the gloves, I put 7% crit chance. And I believe you can put 14% crit chance on full health as well on here. So if you can do that, go ahead and put that on, because that would be a lot more beneficial. On the torso, 35% crit damage is the best way to go, because there is no crit chance or crit damage at full health on this. And then on the waist, you can put on the Nemean Lion set, which gives you 5% crit chance at full health and 25% crit damage at full health. Or you can go with the 60% crit damage at full health, or you can go with the 35% crit damage or the 7% crit chance. But if you don't have the Nemean line set, I would just recommend just going with the 7% crit chance. It is a 2% higher crit chance than this anyways, but yeah, you want to just really build up more crit chance than you can with crit damage, because I mean the crit damage is going to be really important as well, but having more crit chance is definitely going to save you more mastery points than the crit damage would. And then for the legendary legs, for that boost of Agamemnon, it's going to be warrior damage, 28% fire damage, and then I threw on that 7% all damage. If you can, that 14% crit chance at full health is going to be your bread and butter for that one. And now for the abilities, I went with 3 out of 3 on Weapons Master, 3 out of 3 on Gear Master. Oh, I didn't mean to leave the overpower attacks at 3 out of 3. You want to get 1 out of 3 on the overpower attacks. So it's going to be 1 out of 3. And then 3 out of 3 on Battlecry of Ares, unless you like using an overpower attacks. I never use my overpower attacks unless I'm using an overpower build. But like I said, I never do that. And then for the second wind, you're going to get that maxed out, Ring of Chaos, Bull Rush, Shield Breaker, Flaming Attacks, Fire Mastery, Slow Time, and Shadow Assassin. All those, everything that you see here is going to be maxed out except for overpower attacks. Do not, like I said, do not get it maxed out. You want to save those 2 points into something else. Now for my trees or my masteries, I have 12 out of 20 on elemental buildup. Generally you want to go with 8 out of 20 on all these stats I'm going to show you. So elemental buildup is one of them, warrior damage is another, fire damage I would highly recommend getting it maxed out so you can get the max amount of fire damage as possible. And then damage dealt restored as health, adrenaline on parry, damage with swords, crit chance while full health, crit damage while full health, damage while full health, adrenaline per hit, and then a damage on elites and bosses. So once you get all those at 8 out of 20, then I would recommend going back into the fire damage and then just trying to get it maxed out so you can get it all the way up to 300% fire damage, because 300% fire damage is the max amount of fire damage you can go up to. So once you get that all the way up, try to get your elemental build up to 12 out of 20, because the more elemental build up you have, the less hits you have to deal to make the enemies burn. So it takes me only about 1 to 3 hits to have an enemy burn right off the bat. And then for everything else, like the warrior damage, you want to get this at least 15 out of 20, so that way you basically have an epic gear piece on, and then without having an extra epic whatever. And then you want to get that crit damage up to 12 out of 20 like normally. And then if you can, whenever you have extra points, you can get that crit chance up to 12 out of 20, and then damage with swords up 12 out of 20. And then you can also go back to the regular your base crit chance crit damage and get these at 8 out of 20 as well. And I'm going to go ahead and show you my stats. So I'm at 215% warrior damage, 47% assassin, 6% hunter, and then 18% damage with swords, 40% crit chance while full health, 235% crit damage while full health. So it's fine. It's not really high like I'd like it to be, like 80% crit chance, 400+% crit damage. But like I said, this is still really good, or not really good, but it's at a decent point. And then 300% fire damage, almost 30-second fire duration, and 220% fire buildup. Which this right here is all that really matters throughout the whole build. Getting that fire damage up, fire build up, and that your fire duration is going to be at 29 seconds because of the set and the abilities. And then 18% adrenaline per hit. But that is pretty much it with this build. If this helps you out, go and leave a like and comment if you have any, or leave a comment if you have any questions or suggestions about this build or any other builds you'd like to see in the future. And I'm pretty sure that's all I need to really talk about. And yes, you could technically use any other weapon, but you won't be able to benefit all the fire damage. You won't be able to hit the 300% fire damage cap without using these two specific weapons pretty much. I mean, technically you could use a different weapon, but these do give you the best choices. I mean, and yes, you can also use the Hades bow for that 28% fire damage and then 19% warrior damage. But yeah, that is honestly pretty much it with this video. If you have any questions or concerns, let me know down in the comment section. Hit that sub if you want to see more. This is all Day 1 on the PS4. Have a good day, good night, and enjoy the rest of the clip.